Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Born to Lead live broadcast on Facebook and YouTube. It's a pleasure and an honor to have you this afternoon with me. And the last broadcast was on Wednesday, and on Wednesday, I did a tribute to my younger sister who had just passed on um, a short while, well, 2 Saturdays ago, and was buried last Wednesday. I would like to appreciate all of you for joining in on that broadcast and for the beautiful comments and words of commendations that I got in doing that broadcast. I am truly appreciative of that. And I trust that our friendship will continue and will continue to enjoy each other's presence, as it were, um, haven't gone through that trying phase. Today, I'm going to be continuing where I stopped about 2, 3 weeks ago by looking at the principles of personal leadership. Now, I've always stated that before you lead an organization, before you can boast of leading a group of persons, you must first of all have the capacity to be able to lead yourself as an individual. Okay? Leadership starts on a personal basis, on a personal note. There are a number of us who occupy leadership positions, occupy leadership offices, but unfortunately haven't come to terms with our leadership styles, haven't come to terms with leadership qualities that we want to exhibit. So, even though we occupy leadership offices, it usually turns out that we make a mess of the situation that we find ourselves in. So, I'm taking time to elaborate some of these principles by which I know that if you live by them, if you live by those principles, there will be no doubt about how well you will excel when an assessment of your leadership style is made. All right, so this is the reason why I have continued to emphasize that because it's dear to my heart. It is key. It is important. All right. Again, at Born to Lead, we believe this for a fact that every one of us has been called to lead. Everyone from creation, okay? From creation, we have been born to lead. And we understand that not many understand what it means to lead. Not many have the concept or the capacity to exhibit leadership. And for that reason, a number of times we end up making a mess of leadership positions or leadership situations or opportunities that we have been given. Now, every one of us has the capacity to influence people. And as long as you have the capacity to influence people, whether as a school teacher, as a parent, as an elder brother, as a, a teammate, and so on and so forth, as long as you have that capacity to influence people, so long do you have the ability to be a leader. And to be able to be the best leader, I would recommend that you adapt these principles and put them into daily practice. Now, if you do that, okay, if you put this practice or you put these principles into daily practice, I can tell you that there will be no measure to what influence you can make at every point in time. So I'll take time to roll through, go back on some of the principles I've talked about, and hopefully continue from where I stopped at the last time. So if you don't mind, just join me as I take a look at some of those principles. I will come to this at some point, but no, perhaps let me just do this and move on. On the 1st of February 2021, the Born to Lead organization is starting a leadership academy. Okay, I've interacted with so many people. A couple of my colleagues and friends in this group have interacted with so many people, and we feel that there's a need to come up with a curriculum to help guide and promote leadership in the lives of people. So we've come up with certain courses, haven't studied, haven't researched them over time, haven't practiced them. Again, that's something that is key and important to us. We do not practice what we have not, or we do not teach what we have not practiced. So by the 1st of February 2021, we're starting these courses. Now we're going to roll out the method of registration. We're working on that seriously. At the tail end of this month, if you go to my Facebook page, if you go to Born to Lead Facebook page, if you go to Born to Lead YouTube channel, you will see the methods by which you can make registration and be a part and parcel of this. This will come at a cost. It will come at a cost, but I can assure you and guarantee you that no matter what the cost will be, what you will learn will far outweigh the cost. That's a guarantee. That's a guarantee I can give to you. And I can dare you to say, when you make payments and you go through the course, if at any point you do not feel satisfied, demand for your fees back and we'll return your fees back for you to you. This I know for certain, that there's no one that will come in contact with these courses and will not go away a better person. We're going to be teaching understanding leadership. We're going to talk on leadership philosophies. We're going to talk on leadership crises and how to navigate your way through crises and how to even show leadership in times of crisis. The world is in a crisis at the moment. All nations are being tested at the same time. Good leaders who occupy presidential offices have distinguished themselves at a time like this. They've distinguished themselves. That's because before they before they occupied leadership offices and positions, they had prepared themselves for leadership. We're going to look at the challenges of leadership, and then we're going to look at the various styles of leadership and so many other topics, about 12 in all, that will take time to teach and to train. So please do well to prepare. As soon as the registration process commences, I challenge you and dare you to take up that challenge, okay? To go and train yourself properly. Now, like I said from the onset, you were all born to lead. Look at your birth circumstances. Even before you knew what was happening, even before you were conceived, you had battled with over 40 million people. All right? You would ask me how, and I'll tell you. The fact is that for every intercourse that a male and a female has, the male discharges from his sexual organs over 40 million sperm cells, and only one sperm cell is needed and required to fertilize an egg. You were that sperm cell that defeated over 40 million people to be able to get to the egg of your mom, and you were born. That tells me that you were a champion even before you were born. Again, you have a purpose, you were born with skills, and there is a fourth dimension, what I usually call a fourth dimension, which is that if you believe in the creation story, you will know that the reason for which man was created was so that man will dominate over all of creation. Now, if that isn't leadership, I wonder then how you define leadership. And again, a fifth angle will be that we all have the capacity to influence people. We all have the capacity to influence people. And I say, as long as you can influence people, so long would you remain a leader. Excuse me. These principles are laws that affect how you function. They never change. Principles never change. They never change regardless of your age, your sex, your creed, your gender, your religion, your beliefs, your profession, just name it, your economic status, and so on and so forth. These principles never change. As long as you practice them, whether you are young or old, whether you are male or female, black or white, poor or rich, as long as you practice these principles, they will always work for you. That's why they are called principles. They are the laws, the facts of life. Principle number one is that you must discover your purpose. Once you discover your purpose and live out your purpose, you can be sure that people will crowd after you. Number two, you must have vision. You must be able to see a better future for yourself and for your environment. Rather than grumble concerning problems, look at them from the visionary eye and see what you can do so that in the next 5-10 years, everything about that problem is solved. And principle number three talks about passion. People with passion are people that are willing to die for what they believe in. And of course, you see the picture of Mahatma Gandhi. This man died for what he believed in. Frail as he looks, poor like he appears to be, he stood up against the entire British Empire that ruled over India and gained independence for India without raising an arm, without shooting a bullet. Why? Because he was passionate to death concerning what he believed in. And principle number four is that you must have convictions. Your convictions drive you whether people approve of you or not. Your convictions speak and convict your heart to pursue passionately what your vision is, based on the purpose that you have. And once you have a conviction and pursue it, it doesn't matter whether people approve of you or not. You can always succeed. You can always succeed. Principle number five is that good leaders have compassion. They have love and dignity for humanity. They are able and willing to lay down their lives. They are willing and able to ensure that everybody around them who suffers gains succor. They can lose a limb so that every other person will be at peace and at rest. And principle number six talks about leaders who have values, ethical sets of rules. They are moral in all that they do. They are entitled to certain things, but they never fight for their own rights, but rather fight for the rights of others. They are never immoral. All right? So if you see anyone around you who is immoral and claims to be a leader, you have to put a big question mark over the life of that person. You must question that person. And number seven, the principle number seven is that you must have a clear plan. You must never get mixed up. Benjamin Franklin says, by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. And that is true. Every good leader, every true leader has a plan, a roadmap. He or she knows where the journey commences and knows where it will end, such that they are never confused when they get to their destination point. They are never mixed up about their journey. They can fall by the wayside, but they easily pick themselves up because they have a written goal, a written plan by which to be guided by. Number eight is that every true leader has dedication, wholeheartedly fixed on something. While the Wright brothers were developing the means to fly, there were other persons who were even paid by governments to develop airplanes. Those others failed, but the Wright brothers remained fixed and dedicated and committed to their work until they could fly. In fact, their father thought it was unthinkable for anyone to consider flying. That's what their father thought. But in spite of what their father thought, they held their ground and practiced flying, practiced developing an aircraft until they could develop something that could fly. And the last time I stopped at the point of persistence, which is insisting on what your dream of bearing up under pressure. Winston Churchill typifies people who are persistent. He ruled over England as a prime minister. The population of England was very small. In fact, the population of the German army was more than the entire population of England. But he stood up against Germany during the Second World War and was able to conquer and to defeat, alongside other allies, the warring or the raging German army. Now, these were the 9 principles I had discussed earlier on, and I'm going to discuss principle 10, 11, 12, and we'll round up. Thank you for being with me. Like I said always, I would appreciate if you send in your comments, if you send in your words of admonition, I don't mind. If you send in your criticism, fine by me. As long as it helps me to improve and to serve you better, as long as it helps out for me to teach and to equip you for leadership, I don't mind it. Please send in your comments and keep them flowing, even as you've done in time past. So let's discuss this before I move on to the next principle. On Sunday at 8 p.m., I'm going to start a free Zoom class. Again, the idea of the free Zoom class is to enable followers gain insight and interact with me, even as we prepare to start up the academy. Now, the idea is to give an insight, some further studies, some further challenges as to what leadership should mean for us. Now, if you're watching this now, if you're making contact now, you will see the meeting ID, you will see the passcode for joining that meeting at 8 p.m. on Sunday, 8 p.m. West African time. 8 p.m. West African time. Please feel free to be a part and parcel of that Zoom meeting. Again, I'm going to be sharing insights about leadership and the things that you need to know to be able to equip yourself further. Let's move on to the next principle. Principle number 10. Principle number 10. Now, by this principle, which I call the principle of sacrifice, every true leader who practices sacrifice, who is willing to suffer for the cause of their vision, will always excel. You will always excel. Now, Ayn Rand, the leader of the Fountainhead, says this: the great creators, the thinkers, the artists, the scientists, the inventors stood alone against the men of their time. Let me pause there and say something about this. So many times there are people who seek other people's approval. There are people who run their races waiting for people to applaud them. There are people who pursue certain dreams and aspirations and give up along the line because they feel that they have not been applauded. All right? They feel that they have not been applauded by people, therefore, they should surrender, they should give up the good race that they've been pursuing. Now, I can say this for sure, that whether people applaud me or not, and by the way, I've gotten a lot of commendation from people, and I'm glad and grateful that you do that. But let it be known that whether people applaud me or not, I will keep on doing this because this is my purpose. This is the reason for which I was born and created or created and born. And for this reason, I'm willing to sacrifice all to be able to do this, to be able to teach leadership. It has cost me a great fortune, okay, to be online. Every Wednesday now, I'm extending to Friday, I'm extending to Sunday. It has cost me a great deal, but I never mind. Why? Because I know that by doing this, every day that I do this, I'm fulfilling my life's purpose. It is a sacrifice that I'm willing to make, and to make daily, regardless of the cost of the sacrifice. So if you are a scientist, an inventor, a thinker, an artist, a father, a mother, a principal, please, I encourage you, do not wait for people to applaud you before you do what is right. Sacrifice your all for the sake of the goals that you have set before you. And so Ayn Rand says, the great creators, the thinkers, the artists, the scientists, the inventors, stood alone against the men of their time. There was a time that everyone on earth thought that the earth was flat, until a philosopher gazed, researched, and thought that the earth was spherical, was round. And even when he did it, the rest of the earth kicked against him, including the then Catholic Church, that was like the most powerful force on earth. In fact, at some point, it was contemplated that he would be killed for daring to think that the earth was not flat. But today, hundreds of years after, everyone thinks, everyone knows that the earth is spherical. Please do not give up. Do not surrender when people tell you that you are misbehaving, or they kick against whatever you do. And Rand goes ahead to say every great new thought was opposed. Every great new thought was opposed. Every great new invention was denounced. The first motor was considered foolish. The airplane was considered impossible. The power loom was considered vicious. Anesthesia was considered sinful. But the men of unborrowed vision went ahead. They fought, they suffered, and they paid, but they won. That's the tail end. At the tail end, you will win. That's true about being bold to whatever goal you have set out to achieve. So I encourage you again, never give up. Never give up. Make all the sacrifice that is required, because every leader who is standing today had sacrificed something. Nelson Mandela sacrificed 27 years of his life in prison to gain the fame. And of course, he didn't go after fame, but to gain the status that he acquired, Nelson Mandela surrendered 27 years of his life in prison. Mother Teresa sacrificed her job as a teacher to be able to tender to the poor. Winston Churchill surrendered his peace. Martin Luther King Jr., in fact, surrendered his peace, surrendered his family, surrendered his career to be able to stand up for the rights of black people in then the USA and across the globe. Principle number 10 suggests that every true leader makes a sacrifice. Every leader surrenders something for the cause of the good that he or she has placed ahead of himself. There were so many who even gave up their lives. There were so many, like Walt Disney, who dreamt of the Disney park, conceived it, put it on ground, and in the process died, and yet never gave up while the process was ongoing. I challenge you this afternoon, all right, to make the necessary sacrifice. Because every true leader who knows what it means to lead sacrificed something, was willing to give up something. Mahatma Gandhi was willing to give up food. You know, some of us think that if we don't eat, we will die. That's not true. Of course, you will get malnourished, and after some time, you shrink, you die, but it takes time. There are people who have gone on hunger strike for over 100 days and didn't die. So some people even gave up food to be able to pursue a dream and a vision, a passion arising from their purpose in life. I'll read and rant once more before I move on. It says, the great creators, the thinkers, the artists, the scientists, the inventors stood alone against the men of their time. Every great new thought was opposed. Every great new invention was denounced. The first motor was considered foolish. The airplane was considered impossible. The power loom was considered vicious. Anesthesia was considered sinful. But the men of unborrowed vision went ahead. They fought, they suffered, and they paid. Eventually, they won. Keep your comments coming in, even as you join, and thank you for being a part and parcel of this. All right? Principle number 11. You must be accountable. And by being accountable, I mean you must be submissive to certain people and accountable to God, your creator. Now I take it and know it that some people do not believe in God, but you must be accountable to a higher power. You must be submissive to some authority. The truth is, if you are not submissive to someone or something, then you are wild. The reason why animals are called wild animals is because they are in the bush and they are not submissive to anyone or anything until they get domesticated. Wild as a lion is, if you domesticate it and make it submissive to you, it becomes friendly. That's a fact of life. And this principle suggests that you must be accountable to people, accountable to a higher authority, a higher power. You must be accountable. You cannot live your life without accountability to someone or something. You cannot portray life as if you do not owe your family some level of accountability. Vince Molinaro says this: in the years I've been thinking and talking about leadership, I've come to realize that the desperate need for accountable leaders is the fundamental challenge organizations are facing today. This example abounds in the globe at the moment. Everywhere there's a dictator, it is obvious that that dictator has run away from being accountable to people. It is obvious that that dictator has lost control, has become wild, like the wild animals. It is obvious that everywhere that there's a dictator and the dictator is not accountable to people, things go haywire. And when things go haywire, everything begins to fall apart. And when things fall apart, disaster takes over. Across the globe, nations that are developing are nations that have accountable leaders. Leaders that are accountable to the system, leaders that are accountable to the citizens, leaders that are accountable to families, leaders that are accountable to spiritual heads, leaders that are accountable to even themselves. Sadly, there are so many of us who do not think that accountability is a process that we need to abide by, that we need to follow by, or we need to live by. Principle number 11 states that we must be accountable. We must be submissive to someone. We must be submissive to a higher authority. Those who are submissive to God know that even if humans make rules that do not put them under check and control, they have a higher rule, and so they are accountable to those higher rules, and they are cautious as to how they live. And the sad truth is, if you are not accountable to a higher authority, if you are not accountable to government, you will soon find yourself in prison. Where there's no accountability, destruction looms. And where there's destruction, you can be sure that life will not be sweet. The reason why we have rules and regulations is so we can be accountable. Now imagine driving out this afternoon and beating the traffic light. Tendency is that you'll get into an accident. And I've seen that several times, very many times, when people get into accidents. They were in a hurry, but they got into accidents and all their hurries turned into delays. You know, if you are at a junction, if you are at a junction and you are over speeding, the tendency is for you to get an accident. And if you get an accident, no matter how hurried you were, you must stay because you can't even move the car. And many a times, if all things go smoothly and softly on you, all right, many a times you lose use of the car for weeks and for months. But one thing is certain, your car never returns to the state that it was in before you had an accident. You must be accountable to people. Let's look at principle number 12. And like I promised, I just intended to be brief today. Principle number 12 suggests to us that every true leader mentors people. Every true leader mentors people. What does it mean to mentor people? It simply means that you adopt someone, whether your child or someone else's child, that you can groom to take over from you. Ralph Waldo Emerson, I love quoting this man, says our chief want in life is somebody our chief want in life is somebody who will make us do what we can do. Someone who can make us do what we can do. In us, there is abundance of potential. There is a huge, immense wealth of potential in the inside of us. Sadly, not everybody understands that, or not everybody is willing to draw from the well of abundance in the inside of him or her. There is no limit to what any human can do, none at all whatsoever. And for that purpose, every one of us needs someone to draw out, to pressure us, to push us to that point where we bring out what is captured in the inside of us in abundance. Now, that is the secret of mentorship. And every true leader mentors people. Now, I already hear in my mind, someone says, I'm too young to mentor. Excuse me, as long as you've taken the first step, as long as you've taken a step, you cannot consider yourself too young to mentor. Never. You can never consider yourself too young to mentor as long as you have taken the first step. Never. Because the idea of mentorship is so you can pass on the baton. And there's no better way to pass on the baton unless someone walks alongside you. And this is a simple strategy for mentorship. First, that you do it for everyone to see. Two, well, so you be an example. Two, that you bring someone along you to team up in doing it with you. Three, that you assign someone that is close by to do it so you can watch. Four, that you surrender so that the person, or make corrections rather, okay? So that the person who has watched you and who has tried it is corrected and guided as to how to lead. And five, that you surrender totally for the person to continue the journey. But remember, just like the Chinese say, that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. Begin today by taking one or two people close by so they can observe how you live and what you do. I mentor people at home, in church, and my workplace. There are people who cut across all three, so they follow me wherever I go. They know my mistakes. They dare to challenge me to be a better person, to correct myself. And because I'm conscious that they watch me, I am cautious how I live. John Maxwell says, do something for someone that he can't do for himself. This is about mentorship. This is about holding somebody's arm and training the person to do what he or she could never have done for themselves. Every good leader mentors people. There are some who mentor 10, some who mentor 2, some who mentor 1. As long as you are mentoring, you are on the course of becoming a great leader, because every great leader leaves behind a legacy, and the legacies are left in people, not in structures. Structures become outdated. People never become outdated. Structures can be damaged. They can be remodeled. But as long as people live, they will continue to determine what structures should be remodeled or damaged, but they will continue on. So to be a true leader, a good leader, you must abide by these principles. And if you abide by these principles, then you keep growing. And for you to keep growing, you have to keep learning. It is people who learn that grow. It's people who forge ahead with learning that grow. They are the ones who know what it means to live life. And I say that for as long as you live life, for as long as all right, for as long as you push on in life, applying all of these principles, so long would your life continue to be smooth, so long would your life continue to be beautiful. Once again, I'll take a look at those principles, even as I draw the curtain today. I'm trusting and hoping that you keep growing. These are the 10 principles that you must live by. 1, you must discover your purpose. Number 2, you must live by a vision. Number 3, you must have convictions. You must be a compassionate leader, someone with values. To have values is to have an ethical set of rules, things you will not break, even if the whole world is breaking. You must have a clear plan, written down. Never write the plans in your heart. Write them on a piece of paper, because every time you come across them, they remind you of where you're going to. You must be persistent. You must have a high level of dedication. You must be wholeheartedly fixed on your purpose and what you are pursuing. And of course, eventually, all things will go smooth and well for you. You must be a person of sacrifice. And at the tail end, you must be accountable. Accountable to men, accountable to a higher power. For me, my accountability is to men and to God. I understand if you say you do not believe in God. It takes faith to do that. But you know what? It takes higher faith not to even believe in God. But these are the 12, principles, yes, by which you must live by if you want to be a successful leader, if you want to grow as a leader. These are the principles you must put in practice daily if you must attain the height of leadership. And I challenge you, whoever you may be, that you live by these principles, you put them to practice, and ensure that daily your life exemplifies leadership. As I round up, let me take you back to this free Zoom training that would come up on Sunday at 8 p.m. All right? And I'm referring to Sunday, December 20th, 2020 at 8 p.m. West African time. So regardless of where you are in the globe, please take down the meeting ID and the passcode. The passcode is Born Leader. Born in B in capital, L in capital. Born Leader. Thank you so much for your time. I've had a wonderful session with you. This is how time flies. Over 45 minutes have gone by, and you've stuck with me all the while. I'm very grateful for your time, and I'm thankful to you for the moment, the beautiful moment of lessons that we've learned. Keep up being a good leader and keep on practicing leadership around you. Remember, on the 1st of February 2021, we will commence a leadership academy. The registration process will soon be on and available so that those who have eagerly waited all the while can enlist for that academy. And I am certain that if you do, your life will be better off for it. Thank you and have a great day ahead of you.